White Castle is a name that has not only endured the test of time, but has also established itself as a cherished global icon in the ever-evolving fast food industry. This is the tale of how one of the most well-known fast food franchises in the world began as a little, unassuming restaurant established almost a century ago. Discovering the mysterious components that turned a little hamburger stand into a worldwide phenomenon allows us to understand White Castle's incredible journey better. Stay tuned as we honor the enduring legacy of this fast food pioneer. This brand never fails to tantalize our taste, senses, and stoke our nostalgia while reminding us that sometimes humble beginnings can lead to the most spectacular accomplishments. But before we dig, smash the subscribe button and ring the notification bell. The first fast food establishment, generally regarded as White Castle, will commemorate its incredible century of existence in 2021. It existed before any fast food restaurant you have ever been to or has ever been built. They currently have a much smaller market share than McDonald's, but they had a sizable advantage before. They had been in business for many years even before McDonald's appeared. They attained their goal of delivering their billionth hamburger in 1961, a fantastic feat accomplished 2 years before McDonald's did. Many of the ideas that are currently widely used in the fast food sector were invented by White Castle. It's safe to argue that almost every fast food restaurant finds some inspiration from White Castle. But initially, there was a very obvious copycat called White Tower. White Castle was just 5 years old in 1926, yet it had already achieved extraordinary success, so much so that White Tower opened its franchise in Wisconsin, which looked similar to White Castle. White Castle sued them at the beginning of the 1930s, which caused changes to the structure's architecture. There were royalties due in this court case as well. Nevertheless, over time, the White Tower saw significant expansion and prosperity. White Tower grew to a size comparable to White Castle after opening more than 200 sites. Another contributing factor to their success is their role in popularizing the hamburger, further underscoring their significance in the fast food industry. He started a business in 1916 by converting an old streetcar into a modest hamburger shop. The company prospered with low overhead costs and a busy junction as its location. He then went on to start a new one every year. But when it came time to open his fifth business, he decided to team up with a real estate broker named Billy Ingram, bringing birth to a fresh idea called White Castle. Surprisingly, the original White Castle matched the enduring restaurant company that we know and love today, down to its characteristic castle-shaped building and slider hamburgers. These burgers were made creatively. Many consider them as the forerunners of the hamburgers that we know today. They would take this meat mixture, pressing it with a spatula and sizzling it alongside a medley of scattered onions. Eventually, they would crown it with a bun to infuse all the flavors together. He was experimenting with some groundbreaking techniques on that grill, but the problem was the hamburgers needed to be better received. They were unpopular and generally disapproved by people. 15 years prior to that, Upton Sinclair published his renowned book titled The Jungle. In some passages of the book, unhygienic conditions in meat processing facilities were uncovered, exposing the alarming practices there. Because of this, people are now very hesitant to eat hamburgers or ground beef in particular. White Castle faced the problem because it started as a company devoted to an unpopular and slightly hated dish. In contrast to contemporary eateries, their main goal was to persuade customers to try and believe in hamburgers. As a result, at the beginning, this project received the majority of their attention. There's much to delve into regarding their approach. Including white in their name was a deliberate choice to convey a sense of cleanliness, and this commitment to cleanliness permeated almost everything they did. They designed their establishments with bright white buildings and white bags and uniforms. The emphasis on everything being white was a deliberate strategy to visually convey cleanliness, making it evident that hygiene was a top priority. Furthermore, they took the transparency of their process to the next level by grinding up the beef and grilling it right in front of customers, allowing them to witness precisely what went into their burgers. As part of their efforts, they even organized tours to the local White Castle restaurants, inviting homemakers from the area to get a first-hand look at their operations. White Castle worked tirelessly for years to change how people thought about hamburgers and their dedication indeed had an impact. They effectively changed the perception of their famous burgers, and now they offer these sliders in significant numbers. In the early 1990s, they introduced their new catchy slogan, "What You Crave." In 2001, this slogan inspired the name of their iconic Crave case. Another key factor behind their success is their commitment to independence and business operation with minimal external assistance. Notably, they have consistently kept their debt levels low, so they have yet to rely on banks, bondholders, or other external sources for substantial financial support. In 1921, they borrowed $700 to kickstart their venture, and impressively, they managed to repay it within their initial 3 months of operation. They've consistently maintained minimal debt levels throughout their history. Since its inception, they have retained its status as a privately owned company with ownership and operation vested within the Ingram family. In 1933, Billy Ingram acquired his partner's stake in the business, solidifying his control. Today, the CEO of White Castle is Lisa Ingram, marking the fourth generation of the Ingram family to steer the company's direction and success. Lastly, White Castle has notably steered clear of franchising, a significant aspect of their strategy. While they did make a few attempts to expand into foreign markets, such as Japan in the 1980s, as well as Mexico and other places, it seems that none of these endeavors has met with significant success, and they have predominantly remained as a company that operates their own locations. The key takeaway is that the company has owned and managed every White Castle in the United States for the past century. This practice is relatively uncommon in the fast food industry. It's difficult to think of another significant fast food restaurant that meets all of the exact requirements as White Castle because of its unique combination of characteristics, including low debt, remaining independently operated, and avoiding franchising. This reason can be a topic of debate, as many argue that White Castle's approach may have limited its growth potential. However, it's important to note that their strategy has provided them with excellent stability and tighter control over their operations throughout the years, even if it has resulted in a smaller footprint in the fast food industry. At this point, success definition depends on one's point of view, and we tend to emphasize the advantages. Their conservatism has aided in the emergence of a loyal cult following, which is the second item on our list. White Castle was the ideal choice as their destination in the story because it seamlessly aligned with the narrative they aim to convey. Amidst all the craziness, the story's core revolves around two individuals with their intense craving for White Castle, to the extent that they're willing to endure various challenges to reach their goal. It's a perfect representation of White Castle's unique appeal. Their following may be relatively small due to their limited reach compared to larger chains, but it's incredibly dedicated and passionate. The popularity of their refrigerated sliders, which were available in grocery shops, serves as another proof of their hard work. Right now, there was an immense need for White Castle in areas of the nation without its actual outlets in the 1980s. Despite this desire, it could have been more practical for them to grow into other locations due to their current method. They differentiate themselves from their suppliers thanks to their distinctive strategy. But raising the money required for growth can take time because they depend on their earnings. Furthermore, they appear relatively risk-averse, and expanding aggressively could jeopardize their distinct status. Instead, they implemented a program called Burgers to Fly, which involved delivering frozen sliders to anywhere in the US within 24 hours. This program proved highly successful, allowing them to cater to their dedicated fan base nationwide without compromising their core business model. They decided to distribute their frozen burgers in supermarkets nationwide in 1987 instead of continuing the Burgers to Fly campaign. Although the quality of these fixed options might not quite match the freshly prepared ones, they have proven to be a successful way to draw clients from areas outside the reach of their few restaurant outlets. We believe this video enhanced your admiration for this pioneer in fast food, whether you've been a lifelong fan of those renowned sliders or just learning about the rich history of White Castle. White Castle reminds us that sometimes the greatest enduring legacies are created one delectable mouthful at a time. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button and ring the notification bell so you can stay updated with more insightful content.